Hunting far from his home in Karond is the Beast Lord Rakarth. While most Dark Elves are searching for people to terrify into slavery, Rakarth is on the quest for terrifying monsters. The Thousand Maws were the final Dark Elf release, and despite being overexposed on the distant island of Albion, Rakarth certainly made his mark with his unrivaled ability to field large beasts. Today we're going to weigh up his strengths and vulnerabilities, and see if the Beast Tamer can tame the world. Welcome to Elven Plot Armor, and this is the Faction Mastery Guide for the Thousand Maws. To rate the faction, we'll be assessing their advanced strategies across 5 separate criteria, culminating in a total overall. Starting with strategy, which measures the faction's power and abilities on the campaign map. And the Thousand Maws do start isolated on an island, but they have the Dark Elf naval power at their fingertips, so they're never too short on options. Starting with a rich port capital, they also have the ability to summon their first Black Ark without satisfying the requirements that most other Dark Elf factions need to. Since so much of the Dark Elf's campaign power comes from their navy, Rakarth is naturally going to score quite well here. Be sure to check out my Dark Elf race and hero mastery guides to make sure you maximize your navy and characters to get the most out of them. But let's lean into where Rakarth really shines. Beast taming. When Imric proclaims to be Lord of Dragons, Rakarth scoffs, "Just dragons?" before he also shoves Imric into a cage. Rakarth has spent his entire life breaking creatures to his will. Even his steed, the mighty black dragon Brachus, was broken merely by staring it down into submission, which is fortunate because most of the other creatures end up in cages in the menagerie. In-game, this is represented by the Monster Pens mechanic, which gives the Thousand Maws the largest array of units in the entire Dark Elf race. Any captured creature can be raised at any point in time, just like a Regiment of Renown, which, as you know, is incredibly powerful. And whilst Rakarth does start in a very trying situation, these beasts give him more than enough bite to be able to handle them. There are 2 ways that Rakarth can add beasts to his recruitment pool. The first is less preferable, and it's by raiding. Most of the great beasts can only be obtained via conquest, though the exception here is Hydras or Stegodons, which can be obtained by raiding mountains or jungles, respectively. The preferred way of obtaining monsters is simply by conquering settlements. When you conquer a settlement, you may receive a random beast based on the owner of said settlement. All of this is random and you're more likely to get a smaller beast, but the rarest and best are from High Elves, where you can get black dragons, Lizardmen can give feral carnosaurs or stegodons, Norscans can give mammoths, and any sea battle, you can get Kharibdyss. All lords in your faction have the ability to conquer or raid to replenish your pens, and the higher the rank of your lord will increase the chance for rarer creatures. If your monster pens are empty, the unique right, Convocation of Hunter's Right, will allow Rakarth to replenish them with a random distribution of creatures. If you have the funds to spare, you can invest to try and improve your chance of getting rarer monsters. Even still, you should always prioritize using your rights to get more Black Arks, and remember you start in the north against Norscans, so this is a great chance to get some early mammoths. For faction bonuses, the Thousand Maws get a minus 10% to all monstrous units faction-wide. In addition to this, they don't have any vigor penalties when using raiding stance, which, as previously mentioned, is something you should do as a way of essentially getting monsters for free. As for the Lord himself, Rakarth leaves a bit to be desired. Don't get me wrong, the army he personally leads he can make into an absolute powerhouse, but in terms of administrative skill, he doesn't give that much back. I guess Rakarth knows what he likes, and I'm not going to tell a guy what to do who plays chicken with black dragons. Leveling up Rakarth is a fairly standard affair, putting 3 points in Dreaded Slaver before moving away to Lightning Strike, and make sure you put 3 points in Sheathmaster because you will need bows to get through the early stages. Later in this tree, get the high level bow and beast upgrades, but be sure to put him on Brachus as soon as possible. Here you can access his unique skills, allowing him to boost harpies, but they're still harpies. More importantly, you can increase your captives by 25% and get unique bolts from your chariots or bolt throwers that add slowing effect to anything they hit. His signature ability is breeding programs, which allows him to make Kharibdyss have a unique ice breath, finally standing out instead of being diet hydras. Apex Predator gives faction-wide buffs to all monstrous units, and I absolutely believe it's worth getting 3 points in Quartermaster and 1 point in Renown and Feared, because Rakarth will have many beasts with high upkeep, and this will see great return on that investment. From here, it's all your choice. I would increase his defense to missiles, of course buffing melee defense and armor as high as they'll go, then get Beast Slayer to really help him put the hurt in melee. Rakarth is not a one-man army, nor is he a deft administrator. However, this Dark Elf general with the beast pens behind him allow him to overcome any of these challenges, and he gets 4.5 stars in strategy. Next we have geography, assessing the faction's starting location and their ability to navigate the surrounds, and Rakarth's starting location doesn't look good, but it's actually not as bad as it would seem. Norscans to the east, Bretonnians to the south, the Empire a little bit further past that, and of course the High Elves from the southwest who would absolutely love to remove you. The one advantage of being isolated on an island is that we are the Dark Elves and we love the water, and the naval power can come to our assistance here. The biggest issue is that these northern lands cannot build walls, and they're very flaky, they don't earn a lot of money, they can't defend themselves, and they are just primed for being raided. So once you've consolidated this first island, we should not be aiming to go east, because Norscans just get you into contact with more Norscans, and eventually chaos. None of this is good, none of this earns money, and none of this is land we want. We want to go south. You might think Bretonnia would be a good first choice, however the rich port of Marienburg and the fertile lands of the Empire give you a chance to conquer a 4-settlement province, which is excellent for slaving and eliminates one of the leaders of the Order Tide in very quick succession. See my guide on how to do this. Even if you only go as far as Marienburg, this port will give you the funds you need to start invading Bretonnia to the west. Keep on raising Black Arcs and take the ports along the coastline, subdue Bretonnia, and now you are clear to invade Ulthuan. With any luck, you'll get there at the same time as Marathi and the party can roll. Taking the lands of men allows you to have a financial backing for your ultimate invasion into Ulthuan. Capture the island and your campaign is essentially won here. Sail across to Lustria and attack the Lisbon, and you will have a pen full of Carnosaur Stegodons and nothing will be able to rival you. Even with such a dicey start, being surrounded on all sides, Dark Elf naval power keeps the 1,000 Maws ahead, and they land 3.5 stars for geography. Just a quick reminder guys, if you are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing, it really helps out. Ask any question in the comments, I answer everything, and if you'd like to talk strategy, feel free to join the Discord. Cheers. Next we have diplomacy, measuring the faction's ability to control their threats, and for an evil faction, the Dark Elves tend to do quite well here. Rakarth's problem is that he has no friends nearby. Well, they're not that far away, which means he's not in dire straits, but his initial position is dicey at best. Even still, being an evil faction, you must do all you can to mitigate the number of threats pointed your way. On your lonely quest to find the worst beasts in the ugliest places, the hospitality here is pretty poor. Norscans are unreliable and you will get attacked now and again. Now, even if you've beaten them before, yes, they will eventually declare war on you, but don't go chasing after them. Raise relief armies, defeat their invasion, offer them peace, and they will take it. Just keep on doing this. I know it's tedious, but you can't build walls here. This is the cheapest way of doing it. If you take my advice and don't invade Norsca, this issue is only unique to Albion where you start, and once you hit the mainland, things will be much easier. If you can destroy the Empire, this will prevent the other Empire sub-factions from confederating easily. If this sounds too difficult, just take Marienburg and move your way to the west. The key of playing Rakarth well is do not explore further than you need to. Undiscovered factions are ones that can't declare war on you. You are a fish out of water, an easy target, and unlikely friends will bond over the chance to find a mutual enemy in you. Stay unknown, expand slowly, and try to stay under the radar. This applies especially to Ulthuan. Do not go and explore Ulthuan because nothing gets the High Elves going than teaming up on Dark Elves. Be careful before jumping straight into non-aggression or trade agreements with the Norscans because this will certainly piss off the Bretonnians nearby. Yes, Bretonnia are going to turn on you or you on them before we know it, but we want it to be on our terms, not on theirs. Once they are at war with you, then sign whatever you want, but just remember, if you can't afford to stir the pot, don't. But remember, once you get 2,500 captors, you'll get the option to confederate with Karond, and yes, you should do this. This settlement has a unique slave building, is relatively defensible, and will link your empire up with the Dark Elf mainland once you are ready. One advantage of Rakarth is his ability to raise a huge number of monsters instantly, allowing your balance of power to tower over Malekith, making him even easier to confederate. This affords you a lot of flexibility and allows confederations to be a bit more on your terms, rather than waiting for Malekith to fall in battle. If he's still being difficult, just wait for Chaos to waste him, and then you'll probably get it, giving you eyes on Mal's Darkblade to bring home if he is also alive. If it's not going to stretch you too thin, Karond is very easy to confederate, and this will stop Malekith expanding too quickly, keeping him small, meaning he will be easier to confederate in due time. If you want to confederate all the legendary lords, you'll have to break my golden rule and send a hero on a wild goose chase down to discover Lockyer, because Lockyer will get wiped out at some point, because Lockyer's start is even more dicey than yours and he tends to get wiped out rather quickly. Although diplomacy really isn't Rakarth's strongest suit, if you do want all the lords, keep this in mind. Unless you're an advanced player, I don't think it's worth crippling your campaign for it. Whilst beginning with a massive lack of friends, so long as you can play KG and control your engagements, you have all the tools you need to have a very dominant mid-game. They get 3.5 stars in diplomacy. Next we have military, assessing the faction's dominance and control on the battlefield, and this is where the 1000 Maws really shine. The Beast Pen mechanic is arguably the strongest summon ability in the entire game, and any Kharibdyss in Rakarth's army become an A-tier pet with Icy Breath. The Dark Elf military scales very well naturally and is aggressive, so the 1000 Maws are automatically collecting monsters simply from fighting settlement and field battles. Of course, as your empire expands, you will have more lords at higher levels also doing this, which will increase the rate of rare drops. Yes, this campaign is a slow start, but boy is it a snowball. So you're probably thinking right now this is incredibly broken, but just remember you can have these big pets, but you also have to be able to afford them. They're using the Quartermaster skills. Rakarth can reduce his upkeep with beasts quite significantly, but it's not possible to escape high upkeeps all of the time, and if you drop all of your beasts in a single engagement, you will notice your coffers emptying very quickly. My point here being is only field enough monsters you need to win. Especially on legendary difficulty, any summons, may they be Regiments of Renown or the Beast Pens, are excellent to keep in the recruiting pool in the event of an unforeseen invasion, revolt, or just some extra muscle. On the battlefield himself, Rakarth isn't a caster, but he does have Brachus, which is an excellent Black Dragon mount. Boosts his melee defense, melee attack and defenses, and his Beast Slayer ability will make him a very good duelist. Rakarth's unique abilities aren't bad, but they are just very situational. They can only be used on giant beasts, so ideally he is going to have some of these around. One is a temporary damage boost and the other removes rampage. Before you think this is completely useless, the beasts Rakarth capture are going to be feral and they are prone to rampage, and having this ability means that you can keep them under wraps should the creature get stressed out. Whilst not devastating, it is a nice insurance policy. In the late game it can be worthwhile travelling to the west to invade Lustria, as jungles are very profitable for the Beast Pens, yielding Carnosaurs and Stegodons. And hopefully when you have to swat away those pesky Norscans, you can get a couple of mammoths out of them. If given the option in mountainous terrain, don't stand, raid for the chance to get Hydras. Well, this is all good for the late game, but what about the early game? Well, Rakarth does have to be highly mobile, unable to stay in his starting province for very long, meaning he's going to depend on Corsair handbows a bit longer than most others. Once you secure your first province on the mainland, make sure you replace these with 2 to 4 Dread Spears, with the rest being Dark Shards. This will free up your upkeep for a couple of support mammoths and give you a potent army that can really punch up. Also, don't forget his bolt throwers with the extra slow ability is a nice addition, but you won't be the only person out there not to be able to resist a big army of mammoths, black dragons and carnosaurs. For unique items, Rakarth has 2. He begins with his beast armor of Karond, providing a significant melee buff if he's facing off against large creatures. Rakarth's unique quest item requires him simply to build the advanced port at his home capital, and you'll want to do it because it earns a truckload of money. The Whip of Agony side quest can be done before turn 20, and it's advised to do because this gives you plus 10% campaign movement rate, as well as debuffs anyone that's unfortunate to be hit by it. Deploy on the front line, head towards the left in formation. If the enemy surrounds you, grab a few Black Ark Corsairs and put them on skirmish mode, and they should kite away and gun down any lizardmen. Whilst Rakarth may need some time and experience to really become a powerhouse, fortunately his faction can summon all the muscle he needs to get 4 3/4 stars in military. Finally, we have economy, measuring the faction's growth and prosperity. Well, let's start with Albion. Its defensive shortcomings are many, but it is incredibly rich with the major port, and while Albion can work as a slaving province in the early game, you'll want to find a 4 settlement province to serve as your ideal working province. Rakarth's biggest economic challenge is his many fronts. Through some shrewd diplomacy, relentless attacking, and simply obliterating anyone that's a threat, you shouldn't have too much issue here. And let's not forget, he doesn't just have the dialer monster mechanic, he also has the Black Arcs and everything that they bring. In a campaign, he can more than easily keep around the coastal regions. Always remember, having a Black Arc garrisoned at the capital will be able to deal with any revolts that spawn because they always spawn at the capital. In the early stages, much of Rakarth's economy will depend on being aggressive and offensive, and while you may depend on Blackheart Corsairs with handbows, make sure you cycle these out for Dread Spears and Dark Shards, which will free up more funds for an extra beast if you want to have some fun. Keep some beasts in your recruitment pool for a rainy day, and to also not send yourself broke. Once you conquer Bretonnia, you'll be swimming in gold, and if you aren't then, you certainly will be by the time you capture Ulthuan. Rakarth's campaign is certainly not cut and dry, and its unique starting position makes it of great flavour and quite unique from his other contemporaries. Whilst not being a one-man army, or being a pioneer on the civil front, the ability for Rakarth and multiple other lords to be farming beasts at such high levels provides an incredible amount of security, as well as giving any offensive spearhead that extra punch it needs. The 1,000 Maws enjoy dangerous places, but the old world and new world alike tremble at Rakarth's lash, and in the face of massive challenge, he stands tall at 82% overall. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have found this useful, please consider liking or subscribing, it really helps out. If you'd like to ask questions or even tell us how to play, feel free to join the Discord, and be sure to comment what you'd like to see next. This is Elven Plot Armor, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Time.